This is PSN Newsrun, streaming exclusively on YouTube.
Hello and welcome to PSN Newsrun. Publisher of PSN News, Femi Soneye, calls for greater government support for the media. Rivers State prepares for Fubara's return or not. And on the international scene, Google slapped with $36 million fine for paying Telstra. All this and more on today's PSN Newsrun. Publisher of PSN News and former NMPC spokesperson Femi Soneye has called on the federal government to support media organizations as he received the Excellence in Corporate Communications Award from the NUJ FCT Council. Here's Joycelyn with details.
Publisher of PSN News and immediate past Chief Corporate Communications Officer of NMPC Limited, Femi Soneye, has urged the federal government to extend more support to media organizations in Nigeria. Soneye made the appeal while receiving the Excellence in Corporate Communications Award from the Nigerian Union of Journalists, FCT Council. He stressed that government support and funding for media houses would directly improve the welfare of journalists, noting that the role of the press in national development cannot be overlooked.
Is to help media owners, publishers, in pleading with the federal government to assist them. Because you see, the reason why most of our folks are having hard times is because most media owners are facing the heat. There's financial issues, there's different issues that they face. Even to buy newsprint. I know a lot of publishers that when it's time for them to buy newsprint, it's a whole lot of problems for them. So one thing we should leave here with today is to see how we can plead with the federal government to assist publishers, whether you are publishers online, whether you're a federal government-owned media agencies, but there is need for government to really support them immensely. Because when that support comes, then it trickles down.
Presenting the award, NUJ FCT Chairman Grace Ike praised Soneye's contribution to the profession, describing him as a veteran journalist whose impact has strengthened journalism both nationally and internationally. She highlighted that his efforts have projected Nigeria positively on the global stage.
And you brought a whole lot, on table. You've talked so much about promoting the welfare of journalists. You talked so much about ethical journalism, ensuring that journalists balance the story to make sure that it is devoid of misinformation. It is ethical. It is more, balanced and objective. And for us, that's exactly what we need in the society we are in to ensure that we report accurately. You contributed your quota to the pen profession, and to say a journalist is always a journalist. You were there and you're here and you're still one, and we reckon with you as an icon. We reckon with you as a veteran in the profession, and your role and contribution cannot be overemphasized. We still need you in the profession, and we will run to you whenever the need arises. You were so much particular about the welfare of journalists, and I know others out there will attest to the fact that you did your best, you contributed, and you saw the need to make sure you put smile on the faces of journalists, not just in Abuja, across the country. And for us, it's a step in the right direction, it's a welcome development, and you are one person that when we talk about people who are willing to assist the pen profession, you are top there, when you talk about ranking.
The Special Assistant on Data Analytics to the Cross River State Governor, Ebruku John Friday, described Soneye as a seasoned media professional whose wealth of experience has consistently drawn government attention to critical national issues.
You've been able to inspire us who are following your tutelage. I read 2 days ago your article on Canada tagging the party main political parties as a terrorist group. So in fact, it was even your article that exposed the thing that happened in Canada, and government had to react, to it immediately. I thank you so much, and we'll continue to follow that big step you have already put forward to us.
Meanwhile, NUJ Secretary Jide Oyekunle said Soneye's track record and commitment to the growth of journalism made him a worthy recipient of the award.
You deserve it. You earn it. Because it's not an award that you are not the person that maybe is a monetary award. They say it is good to deserve honor and not have them than to have them and not deserve them. So your track record, as ex-officials has already said, I've spoken for you. You're a professional to the core in the profession, and at the other side of the divide, that's the government side. You have made your impact, and this will continue to speak for you anywhere you go and in all your endeavor. Apart from your work, you have touched lives. You have impacted beyond your brief, and that is the essence of humanity which you have brought into this.
In his acceptance speech, Mr. Soneye thanked the NUJ leadership for the recognition, pledging to do more in support of the profession. He emphasized the need for better wages for journalists.
Thank you so much. I'm really glad and honored. And like I said, my doors are open anytime, you call on me. I remember during the COVID, I advocated, I told government then that government should also extend some kind of funding, to media owners. You're helping the airline, the aviation industry, you're helping the manufacturing industry, you're helping the transport industry, but nobody helps the media. So there is need for us to also clamor for all these kinds of help, funding to come. You see, I know some of our online folks even get funding from abroad. So there's the need for us to also plead with government to please also look at the media, try and see how they can support the media.
Femi Soneye is a seasoned media professional with experience across Nigeria, Australia, and the United States. He previously served as editor of U.S. Air Force One magazine at Joint Base Andrews, Washington, D.C., and as president to the Nigerian Media Practitioners in Washington, D.C. He is also affiliated with leading professional bodies, including the Nigerian Union of Journalists, the Society of Professional Journalists, the National Association of Black Journalists, and the Guild of Corporate Online Media Publishers. His contributions have earned him several top industry honors, including Distinguished Spokesperson, Oil and Gas, NIPR 2024, Media Manager of the Year, Champion Newspapers 2024, Spokesperson of the Year, NIPR 2025, and Image Maker of the Year, Triangle International. Reporting for PS News, Joycelyn Ella Keche Ada.
And now, on political matters, Nigeria's plan to raise politicians' salaries has ignited public outrage, with critics questioning the move in a country still battling deep corruption and economic hardship.
The federal government is considering raising the salaries of political office holders for the first time in over 15 years. But at a time when Nigerians face rising hardship, the proposal is sparking fierce debate, especially given that this is a country where corruption remains a significant challenge. Critics question the timing and ethics of a move. The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission argues that current pay 1.5 million naira monthly for the president and less than 1 million naira for ministers is outdated and that low wages may fuel corruption. But critics, including the Nigerian Labour Congress, dismissed this claim, pointing to the hidden allowances and perks that already make political offices some of the most lucrative in the country. The irony is stark. Nigeria ranks amongst the lowest globally on Transparency International's Corruption Index, with widespread public distrust of government institutions. Yet, leaders are considering a pay rise for politicians before addressing systemic corruption. Analysts warn the move could deepen inequality and worsen perceptions of elitism, unless it is paired with transparency reforms and stronger anti-corruption measures. For many Nigerians, it's a question of priorities: relief for citizens or reward for politicians. Reporting for PS News, Joycelyn Ella Keche Ada.
Still on political matters, Joycelyn tells us that Rivers State is on edge as Governor Siminalayi Fubara prepares for a possible return to office next month, ending a 6-month suspension that reshaped the state's political landscape. Let's hear Joycelyn's analysis on this political matter.
Rivers State is abuzz with anticipation as Governor Siminalayi Fubara prepares to return to office next month following his 6-month suspension under emergency rule. For many residents and political observers, his comeback represents more than just a reinstatement. It could reshape the fragile balance of power in the state. The governor, who was suspended in March after President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency, is expected back in office by September unless the federal government extends the emergency measure. Already, provisions in the 2025 budget, defended by sole administrator Vice Admiral Ibok Ekwe Ibos, make allowances for the return of the suspended officials, signaling a clear pathway for Fubara's comeback. The suspension stemmed from a deep-rooted political crisis, largely fueled by a rift between Fubara and his predecessor, now FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. The feud crippled governance in Rivers State, led to the demolition of the Assembly complex, and drew harsh rebuke from the Supreme Court, which ruled there was effectively no functioning government in the state. But in a new twist, Fubara has recently adopted a reconciliatory tone, confirming that peace talks are ongoing and hinting at a softening of hostilities with Wike.
Nobody can take away the role my other played. That's the truth. Yeah, we have our differences that led to this, but nobody here will say he doesn't know the role the man played. Nobody will say he doesn't. Nobody can whiz away the risks he took. Yes, at the point we had our differences, and if today there is need for us to settle, please, anyone who genuinely believes in me should understand that it is the right thing to do.
Still, questions remain about what his return will mean for his political career. While his critics argue that his suspension has already damaged his credibility, allies insist that a peaceful comeback could help reposition him as a resilient leader, one who survived political turbulence and emerged with a chance to rebuild trust. For now, all eyes remain on September as Rivers State braces for the return of a governor whose leadership was paused midstream, but whose next steps may decide not only his own political survival, but also the stability of one of Nigeria's most strategic states. Reporting for PS News, Joycelyn Ella Keche Ada.
Nigeria's private sector is leaning more on bank loans as new data from the central bank shows borrowings have risen by 4% in the past year, reflecting both resilience and economic strain. Marianne is on the business desk.
The Central Bank of Nigeria has revealed that the private sector's borrowings grew by 4% in the last 12 months. This means businesses, both large and small, are turning more to banks and financial institutions for credits. In simple terms, they are borrowing more money to keep their operations running. Analysts say the increase is tied to Nigeria's tough economic environment, rising inflations, high energy costs, and the need for businesses to fund imports or expand production despite shrinking profit margins. With these pressures, credit becomes a lifeline. While more borrowing shows resilience and confidence in future growth, it also comes with risks. The repayment burden is heavier as interest rates remain high, and that could squeeze companies already struggling with costs. For the wider economy, increased lending could stimulate productivity if invested wisely. However, if debt servicing overwhelms businesses, it could slow down job creation and investment in the long run. So, a 4% rise in borrowings might sound like just a figure, but it's really a window into how Nigerian businesses are coping and betting on survival and growth in challenging times. Marianne Awia, PS News.
Nearly 4,000 migrants lost their lives or went missing in the Mediterranean last year, as over 1,300 boats ran into distress while attempting the perilous journey to Europe. Here's Ella with details.
More than 1,300 migrant boats ran into trouble in the Mediterranean last year, according to figures by watchdog group Alarm Phone. The UN Migration Agency says at least 3,812 people died or went missing during the dangerous journey to Europe. The Mediterranean remains the world's deadliest migration route. Every year, thousands flee conflict, poverty, and climate pressures across Africa and the Middle East, hoping for safety and opportunity in Europe. But smugglers often park migrants into unsafe boats, with many never making it to the shore. Despite Europe spending heavily on border control and outstanding migration management in North African states, the crossings have not stopped, they've only become deadlier. Human rights groups argue that without safe and legal migration pathways, desperate families will continue risking their lives at sea. The irony is striking. Policies meant to deter migration often end up fueling more dangerous crossings. NGOs like Watch and Doctors Without Borders continue rescue missions, but they face restrictions and delays from governments. For now, the Mediterranean has become a vast maritime graveyard where thousands of lives are lost each year, a tragic reminder of the urgent need for coordinated international action. Ella Okechukwu, PS News.
Australia's competition watchdog has slapped Google with a $36 million fine for paying telecom giants Telstra and Optus to block rival search engines in a case regulators say restricted consumer choice. Ella filed in this report.
Google has just agreed to pay a $36 million fine in Australia for striking anti-competitive deals with the country's two biggest telcos, Telstra and Optus. Regulators say those agreements shut out competing search engines on Android phones, limiting consumer choice. Between December 2019 and March 2021, Google paid Telstra and Optus to pre-install its search app on Android smartphones and share ad revenue. In exchange, other search engines were banned from being installed or even suggested to users. The Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, found those deals likely sustainably lessened competition. Google admitted the wrongdoing and has agreed to cut enforceable commitments to remove such restrictions in future contracts. The case now moves to Australia's federal court, which will decide on approving the fine and formalizing the commitments. For Australian consumers, this could mean more options when choosing a search engine, no longer locked into Google by default. For the broader market, regulators say it's a step toward fairer competition, especially as AI search tools change how we find information. This fine is part of a growing global push by regulators to hold big tech accountable and protect consumer choice in the digital era. Ella Okechukwu, PS News.
And that's it on PSN Newsrun. I am Oluwatosin Deba.
You just watched PSN Newsrun, streaming exclusively on YouTube. This is your trusted voice for news that matters. Subscribe, like, share, and stay informed.